Lee and I work together on a thing that we do every Friday night called the Asea 5, where we bring medical experts in. Lee, if you don't mind, just share your story real quick on how and why, real quick, why you got involved with this technology, and then why you wrote the book.
Well, I'd be pleased to. Thank you. Yeah. About 3 years ago, we were sitting in a physician's office with my wife, and she was having an appointment, and she's got some rather serious health issues, chronic issues that she's had for many, many years. And we were basically kind of doing our complaint, of like, she's not doing well, she's plateauing, she's just not thriving. And he just looked at us and said, well, I think you need to get her on some redox signaling molecules. And I can distinctly remember looking at him and saying, I don't even know what you're talking about. What is that? And his response was, well, go Google it and get some. I think it'll help. And so we trust him. And because of that, I did Google it. I went and I was hunting the internet trying to find out how to get this. He wasn't representing it at the time. And so I stumbled across the site. I got onto it. I ordered some. I really didn't know the people well that, whose site I was on. And she began using it, and it was just profoundly effective. Within probably 2 days, it was like flipping a switch. And so that really got my attention. And so I began to do the deep dive to try and figure out the science. I've got a considerable science background. I've done a lot of research in various aspects of health and wellness and medicine. And so I took that same ability or talent, and I went into this because there really isn't a lot of, established science in the form of textbooks and so forth. This is so new. It's all out on the leading edge, and you have to go to PubMed and just kind of pull it together yourself. So I did that, and in doing that, I followed the same protocol I've done in a lot of other research, where I started to build out bibliographies and put sources together to try and find out what the consensus or what the leading edge was saying about redox signaling. And as I did that, this is about the book now. As I did that, I had other physicians and dentists who were saying, well, we'd like to have a copy of that bibliography. Can you, give us a copy? So I began sharing it. And then somebody came along and said, well, I think you need to just make a book out of it. And so I went back and went through all the research, another half dozen different times to put a book together. Because if you're going to do that, that's like, a major effort, a major declaration. And so you really got to have your T's crossed and your I's dotted and have all the citations. And so anyway, that's where the Redox Matters book originated. It was my personal efforts to try to understand what is redox signaling, and to try and put it in some language where both a physician or a scientist or a health professional could understand it, and hopefully so that non-medical people could at least get the grounding principles of what redox signaling is all about. And so that was, Jim, that's kind of how I got into this, and how Redox Matters as a book was born.
Okay. And I know there's a little bit more to that story, but we'll touch on that maybe in a minute. So a couple of quick questions, Lee, from some of the people that Paul and Delia brought on the call tonight. What do the redox molecules do in our bodies?
Redox signaling molecules are derived from the reactions that are going on in the cell in the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the little organelles inside the cell that make energy. That's when we burn fuel, when we burn carbohydrates and proteins and fats in our cells. It happens in the mitochondria. And just like burning wood on a campfire, you create energy. You create, the reason you're doing that is to get the heat and the light. Well, in the body, we just call it energy. And that's what powers our body. That's what contracts muscles and makes brain cells work. But in the process of doing that, it creates some byproducts. You could think of it as the smoke, if you will. And these byproducts are redox molecules, and that stands for reduction oxidation. It's a contraction, REDOX. And it basically just describes these molecules that are created in the process of creating energy that then are used by the body to manage cellular functions. And the problem is that as we get older, this process of energy creation, the process of the functions that go on in the cell begins to diminish, meaning they're not working as well as they used to be. The science name for that is called mitochondrial dysfunction. And basically every disease you can think of, especially all the metabolic diseases, the non-communicable diseases for certain, have their basis in the inefficiencies in this mitochondria that occur over time and age, or when we become sick. They're also very challenged. And so these redox molecules are native to the body. We make them, and we use them in the cell to activate genes. We call them pathway genes. And these pathways are what activate our immune system. They're what protect us from bacteria and viruses. They are what turn on the DNA so that we can make our own antioxidants and keep us balanced and healthy through life. And they're very anti-aging. This is what prevents what we call premature aging. We want to delay that. We're all going to die someday, but we'd like to live. We call it health span. We'd like to live a healthy lifestyle right up to the day we die, and then we die. But we don't want to start dying when we're 40, but not actually die until we're 80 because we've lived all those years with poor health. And unfortunately, we have a mindset in our culture today that good health means I don't have symptoms. So I can be diminished, or I can be dysfunctional. I can not be working as well as I could. But if I take medications, to fix my blood pressure, or to balance my blood sugar, or to help me think clearly, as long as I'm doing that, then that means I have good health. And there's a problem with that, because that's just managing symptoms. That doesn't go down to the root cause level, at the redox level, where I want to be, because that's really what activates these pathway genes that make my immune system strong and keep me healthy, hopefully, so that I don't need all these pills and medical interventions. And so what made this, the reason why we're even on this call and talking tonight, as I presume, is this product that Asea has created. They did this a decade or so ago. The research of this has been ongoing for quite a while, but they found a way to create or manufacture, to produce these same redox molecules, basically in an electrolysis chamber using electricity with an anode and a cathode. And it's just electrolysis, because what we're doing is we're taking salt water, the saltwater chemistry, and we're fractionating it. We're splitting it apart and creating the reduction oxidation molecules, such as hydrogen peroxide and superoxide and ozone and hypochlorous. Those are all the molecules that are being made in the cell and that are being used to manage the affairs of the cell and to help us be responsive to what goes on in our environment, or with toxicities or pollutions or bad health disorders. So they created these, and they found that we could, by drinking them or even rubbing them on our skin, these molecules would absorb into our body and get into our bloodstream and into our tissues. And I call it, it's like filling your gas tank back up. When your gas tank gets low, you go to the gas station and you fill the gas tank back up with gasoline, which now gives you, the energy to continue driving your car. But the difference is that as I'm aging, there's less gas in my tank. And so these give me a daily opportunity to refill the gas tank so that I have an optimum level of this signaling, of this communication. It's like having the choreographer in a play, or a job foreman on a construction site. Somebody has to be doing the communication to direct the show. And that's an important thing, because we think, well, this is nutrition. It's like, no, this isn't nutrition. You still need nutrition. You still need to eat, good foods and vitamins and antioxidants. And you still need your carbohydrates and proteins and fats and so forth. That's not what this is. This is the signaling that communicates cellular function, that maintains optimum cellular function, so that you can do with the nutrients what we're designed to do. So,
okay. Hey, Lee.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a question from Paul, and this is a common one. But Lee, I have this issue or that issue, this or that, whatever it is. Will this help?
Well, that's a really great question. And I don't know that we can speak directly and say, yes, it will definitely help you fill in the blank. Right. We don't know that. There's too many variables involved. What we can say for sure is that this makes your cells work better. And if the problem that you have, fill in the blank with whatever you want to call it, blood sugar problems or blood pressure problems, or, sore, achy joints or whatever it is, if that problem is because cells aren't working right, which, wink, wink, guess why they're not working right, right?
Right.
But if that's why you have this problem, this downstream symptom, and we can make the cell work better, then guess what? The symptom gets better, the problem starts to resolve. But we have to be careful, because sometimes there's water under the bridge, and you've had actual structural damage, or you've had pathology occur, and that's already stuff that's gone. That water's already gone under the bridge, and I can't take you back to age 20 when you didn't have that condition before. So we have to be really measured, and we have to be appropriate, and we have to be careful. I always say, what's it going to hurt? Number one, it's non-toxic, it's safe. Why not? This is the best direct way to activate those healing, reparative, restorative, regenerative processes, period.
Is there anything else that will help that besides this? Yeah. I know good nutrition, exercise, sleep, water, but is this not the basis of the health pyramid, that these molecules, the supplementing of them? And I also want to talk about, or have you discuss, what I've termed, don't be an until person. Don't wait until there's a problem. Start being proactive for your health now. The best time to start, right now. Could you talk to that, please?
Yeah, let me start with that one. It goes back, I think, to that mindset of in our culture today. I can go to the doctor and I can get some pills that will take care of my pain. It will take care of my heart. It will take care of my blood pressure. It will take care of my insulin. And we have this idea, like especially diabetic people with diabetes, they go, well, it's like I can pretty much do what I want as long as I cover what I eat with insulin, because then that keeps my blood sugar level. And it's like, well, having high blood pressure or having high blood sugar is not the disease. That's the symptom of the disease. There's a metabolic problem beneath that's creating that instability. And so, it's kind of a cousin question that you asked earlier. It's like, will this work on that? And it's like, why would you want to wait? Why would you want to wait for the disease to manifest or for it to quadruple, in intensity before you began doing something? And this is talking, in my view, in my language, this is the Redox Lifestyle, because the things that you mentioned, good nutrition, exercise, good sleep, stress reduction, keep your mouth clean and your gut healthy. The question is, why do those help people get healthy? Why are you healthier when all of those are working? And the answer is they play on these same redox pathways. They're making the mitochondria work better, so they make more redox molecules, which means you're going to have better signaling, which means your cells are going to be working better. And so, it's a misconception to think that, well, I can take let me say it this way. It's as much a misconception as taking pills to to stay healthy. To think that I can sit on the couch and watch football and eat potato chips and drink Asea and then I'm healthy all of a sudden because I have signaling. It's like, no, this needs to be part of, if you want to supercharge this, then do some exercise. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be the gym rat, as we call them, but you need to be physically active in some fashion. You need to have, manage stress. You need to keep your oral health healthy and your gut healthy so you don't get inflammation. You need to sleep properly. If you've got sleep apnea, go fix it. But and if you're not sleeping right, well, then let's figure that out. But all of that adds up, and you add this to it now, and this is like supercharging it. It's a direct stimulus of that mild oxidative environment that activates all of these pathways that keep us healthy.
I had a question line. Okay, so here's a good one. And I know you like this one. We did a meeting today, and I always pull out the bottle and I go, okay, guys, it's a dietary supplement made from salt water. Why is this technology not out there in the medical circles? Why don't you, as a doctor, why did you hear about this really through a chain of events? Through your wife? It wasn't from medical. Why isn't it an FDA product?
Well, the irony or the paradox with that is that that's where it was heading early on. This was going to be a drug. It was going to be an IV solution to address some, I guess we can say it because it's not there now, but things like HIV and sepsis and cystic fibrosis. And it was probably going to be, we don't know this, but it was probably going to be a really expensive solution. But even at that, it's like, because of its method of delivery, meaning IV, the normal average person isn't just going to go buy this off the shelf at Walmart and put an IV on themselves and get, redox molecules. Well, the problem is they could not get a drug classification for this because they couldn't get what we call a LD50, the lethal dose 50. It wouldn't kill any mice or rats in the lab. And so no matter what dose they kept increasing it to, the mice just got healthier. And so they said, well, okay, we're stuck. And they were burning through their research money. And that's when Virtus Norton came along. If you watch the video at amazingmolecules.com, there's a video there called the Genesis video. It's about 16, 17 minutes long, and it tells the story of where this was going to be a drug. And then when it didn't, they made a very calculated, smart, in my opinion, decision to flip this to the supplement side of the United States FDA, which means that we can't make claims. That's why we kind of talk in code sometimes, because we can't talk about diseases because of those regulations that exist at that supplement level. So they flipped it to that. And what that has blessed us with is the opportunity to be able to share our stories. We don't, maybe I do, but it's like 99% of the people, we don't talk to people about the saltwater biochemistry of Asea. That's just there. And if you want to know more about it, read the book or watch some videos or something. But what we do is we share stories. We tell about what happened to my wife, or my back discomfort, or my blood sugars, or whatever it is. And you're not going to ever hear that if it had gone, even on the supplement side, if this had gone, say, into traditional retail, for example, Walmart or Walgreens or CVS Pharmacy or something, or Amazon or something, if it would have gone there totally, how are you ever going to know about this? We wouldn't. I would never have heard about this had my physician not mentioned it to me word of mouth. There's no advertising. And so he explains it to me. Maybe in my case, he didn't explain too much, but normally we tell somebody, you should see what happened to my wife or my son or my grandma or whatever. And it creates curiosity. And people go, well, I have that issue, or I know somebody with that problem. And then we get a hold of a tool, which means a video or a report, a printed a PDF report or something online. or we get in a meeting like this and we hear people talk about it, and we start to fill in the blanks and learn more about what is the saltwater biochemistry that we call redox signaling. And then the dots connect and it makes sense to us, and we try it, and we have our own experience or an experience in our own family. And that goes from there and to the next level and to the next level. And that's the effort that we're all involved in. So I'm really quite happy that it didn't go conventional, business, as some people would want to call it. It's a word of mouth, because you have to explain and tell the story.
Now, a year, whenever you got into this, that wasn't your line of thinking. There was another reason why you wrote that book. Your big old chicken bone that was in your throat, Doc.
Yeah, there's a side story, and I actually didn't know when I was writing it that this was one of the reasons. I didn't realize that till I was completely done and it was published. I grew up in a home, bless my dad. He's now passed on, but in my home growing up, he took in any business thing that came down the pike. We couldn't even begin to number. It was just, and it created this culture in my family where this was kind of despised. It was looked down on. It was an embarrassment to the family that my dad was constantly doing this. And I might be overstating it just a little bit. He was good in some of them, but it was kind of the mentality. And my mom raised us like, no, you're going to grow up and be somebody. You're going to get a job. And so when I got a hold of this and I found out from our physician like what this was, I was actually kind of like doing this. Please tell me that's not what this is. I just want to go to Walmart and buy it. And
now what we're discussing, y'all, is our business model, is why it's through network marketing. And I think this is just really an important story. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's what, I called it the chicken bone in my throat because I just having such a hard time swallowing this. But at the same time, I was an eyewitness to what went on with my wife. I saw what happened. There was just no question in my mind that that this worked. And as I did the research, because I needed to prove it to myself, I wasn't writing this for anybody else. I was doing the research so that I could feel good about even coming anywhere near what this was about, which was network marketing. And so when I finished writing the book and it was all done, and everybody was congratulating me and whatnot, I remember thinking, well, like, why did I just spend 2-3 years writing a book and going through this work? It's not an easy process. It takes a lot of time. Like, why did I do this? And I knew in my head, I knew this because I wanted to prove the science. And then it really hit me that it's like, I think I needed to make this legitimate. I needed to make it bona fide. I needed to validate that I wasn't a crazy crackpot like other people I know that go after stuff like this. And so, and that's why, to me, I love the Genesis story, is because, for me, it was like, no, this was going to be a pharmaceutical. This was going to be a legitimate drug in the marketplace that physicians were going to use. It was going to be IV, probably in hospitals, whatever. And it's like, wow, that's really, that's an addicting thought for me. And then I realized that this is network marketing, and so in the brain, there's funny things that go on, because it's like, now I recognize, imagine how many people, well, think of what Jim's doing here. I mean, Jim, how many thousands and thousands of people have you impacted more lives than an average physician who might have 1,000 or 2,000 people in their practice total,
Well, yeah. And what's amazing is the future ripple effect of that, and what you're doing as well, by the way.
Yeah. And so you get involved in this and you realize, okay, I'm a medical, health professional. I do dentistry and oral surgery and stuff. And it's like, that's really cool. But I will have an effect to bless more people's lives and more families, just like mine was blessed by my physician's recommendation of this. I will have a larger reach and more ripples than I could have in a lifetime or a career, in total in what I'm doing professionally. So I like that. And Jim has made the point to me many times, and I learned from him as well. There is an important side to this on the business side, that we're because of the business model, we have an opportunity to create secondary, if you want it to be, or primary, if you want it to be, income flow. And, it was Jim and others who, just take this on. I'm working a full career to put money away so that I can stop working someday and live off the interest of some kind of a pension plan or, savings or whatever. And for you to have a $5,000 a month income stream in retirement with no other income sources, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but you need $1 million earning 6% interest to create a $5,000 a month flow that you can pay your rent with, or pay, put gas in your car. Well, that's assuming you can get 6% today. And if you can only get 3%, then you need 2 million. And if you can only get 1.5, then you need 4 million. I mean, you just do the math. And so I started to realize, well, if I could get involved with this and I could start sharing and helping enough people learn about what this was about and helping them, and I could create a residual income stream. What if it was only $2,500 a month? That's the same as having $500,000 in the bank earning 6%. And it's like, well, then, and you compare that with what you're doing in your job right now and say, well, how long would it take me above and beyond what I'm already doing to get another $500,000 put in the bank with all those assumptions in place just so I can do that, compared to if I could take a year or 2 or 3 or 5 and create an income stream of, 2,000, 5,000, 20,000, whatever. The point is that is an asset equivalent. It's equivalent to something in the marketplace. And so there's a really intriguing, compelling business side to this. While I'm doing good for people, I can do good for me. And while I do good for me, which is just, the money is just a way to keep score of how many people I'm helping.
Right.
So,
Paul, I think we've answered the majority of the questions. Was there anything else that you would like Dr. Ostler to cover? Does anybody have any questions out there? If you do, either raise your hand or just go ahead and go to the bottom left and unmute. Now, again, we do not answer any specific disease questions. I do state that we are not a treatment, a cure. We do not make any, even though Dr. Ostler is a doctor, he's a dentist, but he cannot diagnose your mouth over the Zoom call. But does anybody have any questions? Paul?
Could you maybe talk a little bit about where this could go and the potential of this type of technology?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up and have Lee. We are a category created product, which means, and no one else has this opportunity. Lee, did you, as a medical professional, ever think you would see something like this ever enter the marketplace?
Well, here's the irony is no, not really, because we didn't even know this existed. So we couldn't have even conceptualized it. This is so new. But what's coming out now, and this has been for me the great blessing, and hopefully for you, if you read the book or follow what I'm doing, or others, who are equally as smart as we, this whole idea of the redox realm. We've known for 20 or 30 years about the genome, the DNA and gene mapping and DNA personalized medicine through DNA mapping and so forth. But this is even more foundational than that. The question is, what makes that gene or the DNA work is the redox. And so we call it not the genome, but the redoxome. That's the science term for it. And so that redoxome is the bottom of the triangle. And everything above it, this is the foundation of it, because this influences everything else. But because of that, and because of how new this is going to go off the charts, because this drives genetic expression, in both ways. You can turn on and you can turn off genes now by flipping redox switches in the cell in these pathways. And that is the future of medicine. That's the future. That's like way out there. And it will be a while before the actual, the pharmaceutical side catches up to this. But for now, the category creator idea of this is that we're creating a product that sits at that redoxome basement foundational level. And because of that, it filters everywhere in the body. Every cell in the body is affected by it. Every cell. And what we're finding out is that everything from autophagy, which is a scientific term for your cells taking out the garbage, renewing. Every time you go to sleep at night, during the night, your brain is taking out the garbage. You're cleaning your cells, renewing and replacing. That's called autophagy. That is a redox event. That's why we sleep better. That's why our cells can restore and repair and replace better. Just imagine that this is of 100% of the trillions of cells in our body are doing that because we stimulated them with a mild stimulus every day. We have the advantage there. This is going to be huge. I mean, getting in front of this wave, Wayne Gretzky, the hockey player, said, I don't go to where the puck is, I go to where it's going to be. And where this is going to be awesome.
And the thing that fascinates me even more is how we have no competition, which we've been on the open market now for 12 years, and we have not had anybody has copied this yet. And our founder and Dr. Gary Samuelson, who's the atomic medical physicist that God chose to give us these molecules, said it was ordained. It was a God allowed discovery. And that's why I believe, Lee, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I don't think anybody will ever come up with this, what we have. But because
if they ever do, it's going to be decades down the road. I mean, this is the Kleenex of all. You can have tissue to wipe your nose, but there's only one Kleenex, and suddenly every tissue paper is a Kleenex, even if it isn't. Because this is the rising tide raises all boats. That's where this is going.
And for me, as an ex-financial advisor, as a stockbroker who has done IPOs, initial public offerings, if someone said that they had a technology that allowed not just humans, but I think, Lee, you mentioned animals as well, and plants, it works on everything alive. But if you told me 10 years ago or 15 years ago that there was going to be a company come out with something that allowed everything alive to repair itself, protect itself, and heal itself given the time, I would have said you're crazy.
Well, here's what we need to keep in mind, the accuracy of that. Redox molecules have been around for decades. There are lots of people.
The creation, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even for the last 100 years, we've had the ability to electrolyze solutions. You can do that with water and create hydrogen and oxygen. You can do that with salt water and create the redox molecules we're talking about. The breakthrough, because these are highly reactive, energized, electrified molecules. They live for a nanosecond. They live for a trillionths of a second and they die, and you have to make a new one. You're making trillions of these every second in every cell of your body. So it isn't that was the deal. It was the fact that they found a way to stabilize them. And now we have a shelf life. We're up to about 18 months right now, which means for the 18-month shelf life at 100% efficacy, I can take a stabilized redox molecule and I can consume it, and I can restore the native levels of redox signaling in my body. And if I stop doing it, our gene study told us this, if I stop taking it, I go back to baseline within about 8 weeks. But as long as I'm taking them, a stabilized redox molecule supplement, such as what we're talking about, then I can optimize my signaling. That's the key. And that's what makes us different, is that nobody has figured out how to stabilize it. And quite frankly, I don't think they ever will. I don't know if ever, maybe somebody will, but we've got the lion's share of the market.
Well, yeah, and the quick thing on that, we did about 180 million in 2020. We probably did close to 200 million in 2021, and it is estimated that we will be a $500 million company within the next 3 to 4 years. And I believe that when we enter into momentum, when the people start accepting it, but right now our market penetration is nothing. We're in 33 markets all over the world, and there's maybe 100 to 150,000 people in the world that are currently utilizing this. The market is gigantic, and again, we're the only provider. It's all made right here in the United States. And so when you start thinking of how enormous this is, and I believe we're going to see the largest transfer of wealth from big pharmaceutical to the people that are involved with this business opportunity.
Look what's happened in the last 2 years. We won't talk about the C disease, but what has that done to us, as a society and as individuals? Has it affected our jobs, the stability and security that we have with how we earn income? And furthermore, how does it drive your thinking when you start thinking of, well, I don't want to get that disease. We're going to do everything we can to avoid it, number one. But number two, people are starting to catch on to the idea for real that they need good cellular health. That's the best offense, is a good defense. If I have good cellular health, then I can combat this disease.
Exactly. Protect your body, give your body what it needs to do its own. Like you said, you haven't talked about that yet. Fixing, releasing the doctor within, that's what you're doing by consuming the molecules, right?
Yeah, it's an expression I put in the book, awaken your inner doctor. Instead of having the outside doctor come in and give you intervention, we're intervening with a drug. We're blocking receptor sites or having an extrinsic outside-in action. We're going inside intrinsically to the inner doctor and awakening it. And the reason, and that goes back to the premise of, probably 99 times out of 100, the reason why you're sick in the first place is because your quote unquote inner doctor isn't keeping up to speed well enough to prevent all those issues. And then one element of pathology, layers on the next pathology and the next pathology, and now you have comorbidities, and you're just sick. You're metabolically not sick. And it doesn't help that we do just sit on the couch and eat potato chips and don't exercise and so forth. But that all compounds. And so this is a good way to kind of, jumpstart the system and awaken that inner doctor so that we can detoxify, so that we can take out the garbage and clean those metabolic pathways the way they're supposed to be.
And remember too, guys, that this is safe, no toxicity at any age. Age is completely irrelevant. We've had people very young that have had bad cells. So that's not the issue. We're all about being, again, proactive for our health. And so this is also something you need to plan. Yes, Lee.
It works so well that you might feel worse before you feel better. And that's important to know, because when your cells start working, it will start taking the garbage out. And so, 10% of the people just need to be aware that might happen. And there are strategies that you can talk with others about how to get through that phase. But that's like a backdoor proof that it's working, is that you are now starting to detoxify, and that will take some time. People say, well, I took this for a week or a month. It's like, I don't feel anything. And it's like, that's not how cells work. This is going to take 90, 180 days to get your cells working again, to clean things out so that you can get that inner doctor functioning right. And so don't just jump into this and do the drug test where it's like, gee, I took the pain pill and it didn't work in an hour, so these must not work on me. No, these are working 100% of the time in everybody, in every cell of your body. And we're not, and you have to be careful not to look at it through that what we call the pharmacokinetics or the drug, mindset of evaluating if something's working or not. So it's a very different, it's true cellular health.
Paul.
So can you address the amounts that different people need to take and why smaller amounts and larger amounts seem to have different effects on people?
I can. I'll talk about science, and because that you're talking about what's called the hormetic principle, or hormesis, HORMESIS. You can Google that and kind of look that up. The hormetic curve, or the hormetic effect, or hormesis, is the concept that what doesn't kill you makes you better. That's an old phrase. Small, tiny, subtoxic doses of something will stimulate your system to become stronger. Exercise is a great example. Exercise itself is quite destructive, but it's in the repairing afterwards, the rest phase, where our muscles build and repair and become stronger. Too much exercise will just tear you down, but a little bit will be great. Vitamins are the same way. The phytochemicals and vitamins are actually in plants. Most people don't know this, but in a plant, the reason that those chemicals are in plants that we call vitamins is so that they can defend themselves in their own growing environment from their pests and predators that's toxic to others. But for humans and mammals, when we eat them, they're just slightly toxic enough that they cause this hormesis effect. And the point I'm getting at is that that effect is different for every person. What that effect does is it creates a little bit of oxidation, and it's that oxidation that causes the cell to activate these pathway genes. That's what Asea is doing. Asea has redox molecules in it that will provide a very mild oxidative stimulus to the cell that upregulates these pathways. That's why this is all common language with this. So now to answer your question, Paul, every one of us has a different hormetic curve. There's a different level of stimulus that's required. And that could be because we're very sick. It could be we've been sick for a very long time. It could be because we're very old. It could be because we have a bigger redox deficiency, I'll call it. And so the point is there's no dose. This isn't like take one pill every 4 hours type of thing. This is you figure out what works for you. We say, commonly in our industry, we say, 4 ounces and 2 doses. So 2 ounces twice a day is a good maintenance dose for many people. But we've got good data that shows that 8 ounces a day, 4 ounces twice, right? That 8 ounces a day does really specific things to those gene pathways. My wife, I call this the sweet spot. The hormetic sweet spot for my wife is about 10 to 12 ounces a day. And when she starts to forget or to taper off, and she's like, "Did you take your Asea today?" And she'll go, "Nope, I need to." Or her physician will actually scold her and say, "Have you been taking your Asea?" And she'll confess that she's been kind of slipping off the wagon a little bit. And we can tell because she's beneath what her range is that activates for her. But if you take too much, if you took a bottle a day, if you over consumed this, would that be bad? No, the excess just reverts back to saline. It's fine. It may not do you that much good. So the real answer, Paul, is everybody's going to trial and error and discover what their own sweet spot is, which means that when someone says, "Well, I don't feel anything yet," it's because they're not taking enough or they haven't taken it long enough. And once they find that sweet spot, they'll go, "I can tell a difference." Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's not so subtle. But that's my answer.
Yeah, and realize too that it's a stackable benefit. The longer you stay on it, and the thing Lee mentioned that you may not be aware, you may think, "Well, geez, I'm really healthy. I don't need it." But you have no idea what really is going on inside the body. So when you start to consume the molecules go to the brain, opens up all the communication lines, and it knows where the problems are. You may not be aware of that. You may not feel your genes getting turned back on. And so it is always working. And so if you stop taking it a year or two down the road, you better have some handy because you're going to go, oh my gosh, because you may go, I've never felt it for 6 months. Then I'm going to say, well, stop it for a couple of days and you'll know it real quick. You will feel the difference if you have not felt anything. And that is the beauty of the topical gel, by the way, that we've got too many pictures of the before and afters of people's doing it to their face. Dr. Marty Morin did half of his face. The show that we're going to do this Friday has got Dr. Carmen Keith, a triple boarded doctor from Harvard. Guys, I don't want to take any more of Lee's time. I know Belinda has had her hand up. So Belinda, can you unmute real quick, please?
Actually, I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. The first one had to do with the patents. I know Asea has, I don't know, at least 9 patents or so. And I'm wondering if there's, and maybe I shouldn't even think about this, but it's something that's been bothering me. How long are the patents good for?
Okay, I can address that one real quick. They also have intellectual properties, which go on in perpetuity. And also the patents overlap each other. And Lee may have another answer as well, but this will never go off a patent. And so with the intellectual properties, it secures it forever. It's kind of like with Coca-Cola. They have intellectual properties on their formula. It will never be released. This will never be released to the open market. Lee, do you have another answer on that?
Well, actually, because of that, the patents aren't as strong as what's the word I'm looking for? The
intellectual properties or the intellectual.
There's another word. It's intellectual property, but it's the trade secrets.
Trade secrets. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, the trade secrets of it. The patents will expire, and actually, the patents are kind of a public disclosure. You can read the patents, but you can't read the trade secrets. And this was a very I don't know the right word. This was an extremely complicated discovery, even though it was somewhat by accident that it occurred. It's an extremely meticulous, from a physics point of view. And again, not the creation of the molecules, it's the stabilization of the created molecules. That's the key. I have a device in my house here that I can make hypochlorous. That's a redox molecule. We can use that to clean the bathtub and the toilet. The hypochlorous is very biocidal. It kills bugs, and I can generate that with a little bit of vinegar and salt water in a little electrolysis thing I have. But I can't stabilize them. They're not going to last. You make them and they go away.
Interesting. Thank you, Lee. Belinda, the other one?
Okay. The other question I was wondering, okay, now it escaped me. I'm sorry. I forgot my second question.
Well, make sure you let Paul know or me know, and I'll ask Dr. Lee at another time.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other last minute questions, please? For Dr. Lee Ostler. Again, you guys can go and get his book at www.redoxmatters.com. It will take you immediately to Amazon.com, correctly?
Yeah, and just a sneak announcement here. This is a privileged audience, right?
Yes.
RedoxMatters.com is going to be going live in the next 2 or 3 days. And there'll be much more information material on it. In fact, that's where all the Asea 5 videos will be parked going forward. And so there'll be much more information on that site.
Will we go live by Friday?
I'll tell you by Friday. I'm hoping.
Okay. Well, does anybody else? Huh?
At least hopefully weekend, hopefully.
Okay, great. Does anybody else have any other questions? Please. Paul?
Well, you'll keep us posted, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes, ma'am. Because a lot of people have been asking for the Asea 5 videos, and Lee has been keeping those, and we'll have specialty videos there as well. So it will be a place where everybody can access and watch Now, they will not be able to download the videos from there, correct? They can just watch?
Yeah, they can watch. Those will be, they're on YouTube right now. So there's just a link. It's kind of like a Vimeo platform, only it's a YouTube platform.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Paul, Delia, wrap it up.
I guess we just want to thank you. It's kind of a
Yes.
rare privilege to have you, Dr. Ostler, here talking to us privately and answering our questions.
Thank you.
And we're kind of a small group here from Corpus Christi. And there's Jose Luis Bazan. He's from Medellin, Colombia right now. There's some other people, but we're really grateful, very grateful. Thank you.
It's been my privilege. Thank you.
From around
Thank you,
Texas.
guys. We will have this recording. I will put it into Vimeo. Actually, it'll be one of those videos that Lee will post in the Asea 5 on the redoxmatters.com website. So I will have that available soon. So I will give that over to you, Paul, and you can disperse it out to the folks that missed it. So guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your
Bye.
time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.